All right, man, peace. So, brothers, the welterweight division is in a very good spot right now. One could make the case that 3 of the top 15 fighters in the entire sport of boxing are currently belt holders in the 147-pound division. One of those high-profile names, who happens to be a belt holder, is Mr. Errol Spence, who's coming off of his most high-profile victory earlier this year against Mikey Garcia, who himself was moving up from 135 pounds. It was expected that Errol Spence would dominate, and he did just that. The only thing that he was missing was the coup de grace, that being the knockout against Mikey Garcia, but I think that he was trying to make a point and whooping his ass for 12 rounds. Well, he recently sat down with the Speak for Yourself panel, consisting of Jason Whitlock and Marcellus Wiley, to discuss that fight, and he will also answer the question of whether or not he believes that Floyd Mayweather will ever fight him. His answer will be rather revelatory. He's going to claim that he believes that Floyd Mayweather will never fight him because he's a young fighter in his prime, which pretty much is going to feed into the overall sentiment, the overarching notion amongst the sports media that Floyd Mayweather tries to, quote-unquote, duck fighters who can beat him. We know that that's not the case. At least those of us who follow boxing closely, we know that Floyd Mayweather has always fought against the toughest challenges, and that's the reason why he's made the most money. You cannot make the most money only fighting bums. You cannot beat the most world champions in the history of boxing, which Floyd Mayweather has done, if you're only fighting bums. And let's also understand that Errol Spence's rather meteoric rise into the consciousness of the boxing community, the boxing world, is pretty much inextricably linked to Floyd Mayweather, because the first time that most of us heard about Errol Spence was in the aftermath of the 2012 Olympics in London, Great Britain. He had a relatively decent showing, but after that, he engaged in Floyd Mayweather in a series of sparring matches after Floyd was released from prison, and he made a name for himself because he did relatively well. And that's very common for top prospects to spar champions just to build up their experience level. Muhammad Ali, then known as Cassius Clay, had a very notable sparring match against Ingemar Johansson. For those of you brothers out there who might not know who Ingemar Johansson was, he was the world heavyweight champion for a brief moment in the early 1960s. He had 3 very memorable fights against Floyd Patterson. Well, Muhammad Ali, then known as Cassius Clay, had a great spar match against him, dominated Ingemar Johansson. And that was one of the first times where many of the members of the boxing media said to themselves, wow, this dude who has a big mouth might actually have championship level pedigree. George Foreman used to spar against Sonny Liston after the 1968 Olympics. Kenny Norton was a sparring partner for Joe Frazier before he made his name in the early to mid 70s as a top contender himself in the heavyweight division. We also know that Larry Holmes was one of Muhammad Ali's top sparring partners in the early to mid 1970s. So this is common. So they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
All right, welcome back. Whitlock and Wiley. Champ is here. The champ is here. IBF welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr. Welcome to the show, Errol.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, man, you put on a performance in your hometown, PBC, big event in Jerry's World. What was it like dominating in your hometown and such, really like putting yourself on the map as a national figure?
It was amazing, man. This was a lifelong dream of mine, especially fighting at the Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Center. And for me, the ring walk was real special. You know, everyone's cheering me on. I had the Lancaster Band as a local high school band come out first, and then I had 2 local rappers come out. So, you know, it was all support, and I kept it in the city, which was great.
Yeah, and you also were on Twitter, Instagram before the fight, 2 phones. Like, I mean, everyone has a different pregame ritual. Talk us through how relaxed you look before one of these big fights.
I'm relaxed because this is my life. You know, this is what I do 24/7. This is, you know, my grind, something that I've been doing every day. Like, I eat, sleep, boxing. So, you know, when I'm in the locker room.
Brothers, let me say this very quickly. I hope that you heard what Errol Spence stated about how he's become so successful. Whatever we want to become successful at in life, we have to eat it, sleep it, shit it, breathe it, man. That's how it has to be. You can't just sit up in some cubicle all day, mad at the world, saying, man, I really wish that I could do this or do that. You're going to have to make a decision. Either you're going to have to make some time after work to work on your craft when it comes to what you actually want to do with your life, or you have to stop bitching and complaining and just settle. That's how things are going to have to be. You have to be either hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm. If you're lukewarm, it's not going to be a success.
You know, I'm relaxing. This is another day at the job. I'm on Instagram. I'm text messaging. I'm answering FaceTime calls. You know, right before I glove up, because you know that's how much confidence I have in just knowing how hard I worked in training camp and how hard I prepared for this fight, that gives me the confidence just to relax and be myself.
Errol, you were so dominant, I got to be honest with you. It put me to sleep.
Yeah, literally.
Honest to goodness. Because, so did you know, were you that relaxed because you knew this guy, Mikey Garcia, had nothing for you?
I kind of had a chip on my shoulder too, because, you know, a lot of the critics and, you know, and other people were saying different things that, you know, Mikey Garcia was going to win. And I watched all that on YouTube and on Twitter and Instagram, people, you know, at the last minute saying Mikey Garcia was going to beat me. So,
yeah, because they wanted to have a hot take so that if they were correct, they could run around and say, I told you so, I'm a boxing genius. Anybody with common sense who's ever seen Errol Spence fight, you knew that the only chance in hell that Mikey Garcia had was if he caught Errol Spence early with something very hard in the fight, maybe could stagger him and then finish him off, and the referee jump in and wave the fight off. That was going to be the only chance that he had. I never thought that Mikey Garcia was going to outbox Errol Spence over 12 rounds. And that was before Errol Spence displayed the level of craft that he displayed during this fight, which was the highest level of craft that he'd ever shown. He really showed a lot of what he could do. He went into his bag, as they say today, as the kids say today, he went into his bag.
So it actually put a real chip on my shoulder that I wanted to go out and prove that I am the best fighter in the world.
Well, it looks like you don't need the critics to put a chip on your shoulder, because after the fight, you called out 40-year-old Manny Pacquiao, who we know is a legend of the sport.
Well, what he did was he called out the cash cow, which is what he's supposed to do. He called out the cash cow of the PBC. And I knew that Manny Pacquiao was not going to fight that boy. Wasn't no way in the world. Manny picked the correct opponent, that being Keith Thurman.
Brings a huge fan base, but let's be real. Aren't you a little too good to be fighting 40-year-old Manny Pacquiao?
How could he be quote-unquote too good to be fighting anybody? If you decide to glove up and you're the person with a belt and with a name, that means you want to keep fighting. But it's always so interesting to me. And a lot of things that our people do, they do subconsciously. They don't even realize it. And we're going to see it later on in this interview. They will claim that Floyd Mayweather is ducking people even though he has not fought a competitive boxing match in 4 years. And he's older than Manny Pacquiao. They'll claim that Floyd Mayweather is not going to fight Errol Spence because he's scared and he's ducking him. But when it comes to Manny Pacquiao, they'll say, well, isn't Manny too old for you to be challenging him? But Manny is still an active fighter in the welterweight division and has a belt. It's just something subconscious that our people do. I'm not quite sure if they understand that they're doing it. I think that it has a direct correlation to the propaganda that's put out there by the media, that Manny Pacquiao is a fighter who has always taken on all comers and Floyd Mayweather has always quote-unquote ducked opponents. Even though when you look down the list of fighters that Manny Pacquiao has fought, most of them were fighters who Floyd Mayweather already beat, at least during the time period where Manny was truly starting to rise in national and global prominence in the boxing world. But it's all based on perspective. How could you say that? How could you say that Manny Pacquiao is too old for Errol Spence to want to fight him when he's still an active fighter? It makes no sense whatsoever.
Nah, I feel like he beat, you know, Adrian Brown. He just beat Adrian Brown on pay-per-view.
Suspect. A lot of volume, not a lot of hits, but we watched it.
Yeah. And then, you know, he actually holds the record for the most tickets sold at the AT&T Stadium. So, I mean, I feel like it only makes sense for me and Manny Pacquiao to fight back at the AT&T Stadium. And, you know,
it makes great business sense, brother.
You know, break.
It's not going to happen right now. You're going to have to whoop Sean Porter first and hope that Manny Pacquiao defeats Keith Thurman. And I think that I won't even call that a 50-50 fight as of right now. I would slightly favor Keith Thurman, but I want to see how they look in their training camp. I also want to see how Keith and Manny look during fight week before I make my official prediction.
I'll break his record and maybe have 70,000 seats there. You know, I'm putting my promoter hat on right now.
He's a business, man.
Yeah, he's my business man.
I'm putting my promoter hat on.
And good for you, brother. You should be thinking about the money. Think about the money, because we already know that you can fight. And we already know that most of these fighters in the welterweight division are running from you. They have been for a very long time now. Many people try to bring up this Terrence Crawford nonsense. Terrence Crawford, and I love Terrence Crawford. Phenomenal craft, phenomenal skill. But Terrence is that dude who sits back and he's comfortable with the little house that he has, and he can go out and put on some fancy clothes every once in a while and pose for the gram and try to act as if he's concerned with his drip, go out fishing with his sons and with his friends, go play pool, and then 10 years from now he's going to claim that Bob Arum robbed him blind. I have no idea why Terrence Crawford would sign back with Top Rank when he claims that he wants to fight the best welterweights and all the best welterweights are at the PBC. And he was just a free agent a couple of years ago. I have no idea why Terrence Crawford would do that, other than maybe he just is too lazy to want to promote himself. Who knows?
So I hear that when I hear you call out Pacquiao, what I actually hear, and again, because I'm thinking you're a businessman, you want Floyd Mayweather. That's where the real money's at.
Well, everybody wants Floyd Mayweather, but that's not going to happen because Floyd has not fought in a real boxing match in 4 years. And I think that it's very difficult for people to accept that Floyd Mayweather is retired. Why is that? Because he fights these high-profile exhibitions due to the fact that people still are obsessed with Floyd Mayweather losing a fight in some way, shape, or form. Mayweather is doing things mentally that most people are never going to understand because, for the most part, the average person is a sheep. And when they look at someone who decides to buck the trend and shows a high level of intelligence, scruples, discernment, etc., they're very upset by that. The attitude is, who do you think you are to decide that you're going to change the paradigm and elevate to a higher level and change the overall business model of boxing? And yet many of these same pundits will complain about the boxing world and how they treat their fighters. Well, Floyd Mayweather peeped game, and he decided to invent his own senior circuit. He decided to do something that had never been done before, at least on that scale, because other fighters have done similar things. Muhammad Ali fought a wrestler. It's just that he did not have the business mind of a Floyd Mayweather. He did not have the monetary mind of Floyd Mayweather. But just to get back to the point, it's over. Floyd is not coming back to fight. He definitely is not coming back to fight no damn Errol Spence. You don't fight Errol Spence after you've been out of professional boxing for 4 or 5 years.
That is where the real money at, but Floyd's retired. I actually, talked with Floyd, and Floyd said, he has no ambitions of coming back. So, Floyd's gone.
Is he scared?
No, I don't think he's scared.
Boy, stop. You know he's scared.
Now, brothers, did you hear that? Marcellus Wiley just finished asking Errol Spence, why are you fighting Manny Pacquiao? Don't you think he's too old? Now, when the topic switches over to Floyd Mayweather, who's older than Manny Pacquiao, he says that Floyd Mayweather is scared. You see that? That's what's called subconscious programming. He's not even aware of what he just did, Marcellus Wiley.
No, respect to the champ, but at the same time, you're in your prime. You're 29 years old.
Yeah.
And he is making so much money off of that and like 50 and he fights you. Floyd was retired before when he came back in the ring, whether it was exhibition or not. You don't think there's any chance you could build this up? You face Manny Pacquiao, fan base increases. Keith Thurman or someone else that you're expected to win, but it's going to be a great fight. And then you get a Floyd Mayweather. You don't visualize that? You don't fantasize about that?
Of course he does. He knows that if he fights Floyd Mayweather, that's going to be an automatic $25, maybe $30 million, maybe even $40 or $50 million paycheck. But in order for Errol to even have the possibility of getting a Floyd Mayweather fight, he would have to dominate Manny Pacquiao. I mean, first off, he would have to defeat Sean Porter. Let's not put the cart before the horse. He would have to probably defeat him in outstanding fashion, do something to Sean that's never been done, like stop him. Then he would have to do the same thing to Manny Pacquiao or Keith Thurman, whoever wins that fight. Then he'd probably have to defeat Terrence Crawford. Then he would probably have to defeat Canelo Alvarez before he would even be able to have the name to say, I want to fight Floyd Mayweather. And by the time you beat all those guys, it's going to be 2022. Floyd's going to be 45 years old, and that's never going to happen. So stop worrying about that shit.
Nah, because Floyd's a smart businessman. He's very, smart in how he goes about things, calculated. So, I don't think Floyd will fight me. I mean, I'm young, I'm in my prime. We sparred before, so we have history.
So what you trying to say, brother? You trying to say that Floyd's not going to fight you because he's calculating, or are you trying to say that he's not going to fight you because he knows that you're going to beat him? Or are you saying both? Are you saying that Floyd's not going to fight you because you're young and you're in your prime, and because you whooped his ass in sparring? Is that what you're trying to say?
So I don't think that he'll come out retiring to fight somebody as young and is in his prime and as skillful as myself.
Breaking news: how did that sparring session go between Floyd Mayweather and the champ, Errol Spence Jr.?
It's a unsaid law. You don't talk about sparring. So I respect the old laws, and I won't talk about that.
And it would make no sense to do so, because in sparring you're working on your weaknesses. You're not trying to have a real fight. I mean, the only real nationally renowned gym, pretty much in all of America, that was constantly pumping out great professional fighters, that was known for having real fights, like sparring matches that were real fights, was the Kronk gym. And a lot of those fighters, they just got worn down from all those wars in the gym. So it does not make sense to talk about what happens in sparring or what happened in sparring, because for the most part, especially championship level fighters, they're just trying to sharpen up. If Errol Spence was able to get off on Floyd, which for all intents and purposes and by most reports it appears that he was, that's a great thing. All that did was act as a harbinger for what was to come. Errol Spence is this generation's top welterweight, at least in my view. We'll see how things turn out. Hopefully he'll fight Terrence Crawford in the next couple of years. Floyd Mayweather was the top welterweight of the 2000s and early 2010s. His time period is gone.
You're going to be, you or Deontay Wilder, going to be the face of boxing moving forward. Are you ready for that? And then how can, Floyd was the face of boxing for so many years because he was polarizing and in your face. You have a different style. You carry yourself a little differently than Floyd. Again, how do you become and maximize being the face of boxing?
I think, I'm ready for it. I'm kind of taking not the Floyd Mayweather route, but, more of a Ray Leonard route.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, more of the Ray Leonard route. So.
I don't see that happening for you, bro. There's no disrespect. You can try to say that you're going to assume the Ray Leonard route, but both Floyd Mayweather and Ray Leonard have very vivacious, outgoing personalities. You seem to be more of an introvert. I might be wrong about that, and there's nothing wrong with being an introvert. That's a great thing, actually. But I'm not quite sure if you're going to be able to take the Sugar Ray Leonard business route or personality archetype and apply it to yourself. Because Ray Leonard was pretty much a shill and a salesman. And when I say a shill, a corporate shill, someone who they would use in commercials and who would smile next to a can of Pepsi or Coke or whatever it was that he was marketing. And he was very good at that. I don't see Errol Spence doing that.
So, I want to be that crossover superstar. And, I may not, do the things, Floyd do, be brash and in people's face and things like that. But I feel like just, my real personality and, how I fight in the ring, I think, it makes...
Well, that's definitely going to be your best attribute. That's going to be the highest contributor to your success, is how you fight in the ring, because you're very aggressive. So that means that your fight style is going to transfer over across various demographics. You have the slick fighting style. You also come forward. You're aggressive. So you're going to have numerous groups of people, all races, who are going to love to watch you fight. So that's definitely one thing that you have going for you. But you should be trying to build towards that Canelo Alvarez fight, because that's going to be the capstone on your career. Because the Mayweather fight, that's never going to happen.
It makes people draw to me because, I'm somebody that a lot of people can relate to.
When you beat up Pacquiao, we want you to come back. But give us a little warning, man. If you're going to be wearing that much ice, we need to turn the heat up.
Rich, man. That's real talk, man.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, come.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. Congratulations to Mr. Errol Spence for his victory against Mikey Garcia. And hopefully there are many more victories to come for him. So peace.